For some analysis, we're joined by Dr. Gideon Chitanga, who's a research fellow at the Ludwig Maximilians University of Munich, Germany. He joins us now live. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, what do you make of this? What are the implications of President Donald Trump suggesting that both Ukraine and Russia should cede land to end the war?
Yeah, I think there is maybe the most important thing is that potentially President Trump will get President Putin and President Zelenskyy talking. It's not clear yet whether the two leaders will be able to directly engage with each other, but that President Trump will meet with President Putin is quite significant, and if indeed he is able to bring President Zelenskyy into the conversation, I think that would be a significant step. However, there are huge gaps, I think, in what we have heard, as in what would be the expectation in terms of the modalities to end the conflict. The issue of exchanging territories, it would be extremely controversial. Ukraine is under occupation. Much of the Ukraine territory is occupied by Russian forces. And the Ukraine does not have much of any Russian territory that it still occupies. So it is not clear how the issue of territories will be, territorial exchange will play out. Fundamentally, there's an issue about national sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, which is a key issue, and Ukraine has consistently presented a view that the Russian occupation presents an existential threat in the violation of its sovereignty. So I do not see an easier way out of that conundrum.
Yeah. And as we look at U.S. President Donald Trump's framing, I mean, does that framing suggest a shift of some sort towards a more pragmatic approach to conflict resolution, even at the cost of sovereignty?
So rules are very important. I would not see any form of pragmatism. I suspect a combination of opportunism and a lot of arm twisting on the side of Ukraine, which will result in a settlement that is not probably satisfying to the Ukrainians, given the cost of the war and the fact that they're the ones who are defending their sovereignty. A pragmatic solution would entail, I think, something that is very much responsive to the fundamental problems as raised by both Ukraine and Russia. And indeed, the concerns of the Russians have been about the expansion of NATO. So the issue of territorial occupation is a result of the 2-year-old war, probably what Russia has achieved as part of its sacrifice into this war, and might not easily give up those territories. But for Ukraine, it has always been defending its own sovereignty, its own territory, its own people. And it's not an easy way, and any sense of a pragmatic approach, I think, should go back to the key international norms about respecting national sovereignty, and at the same time, NATO working with the U.S., which is its major ally, in trying to address the fears of Russia.
Yeah. And as you talk about Russia's fears, how might Russia interpret Trump's statement? I mean, could it be seen as a tactic approval of some sort of territorial gains made by force?
Yeah, I think a lot of analysts would agree that Russia has said that the current situation in terms of its claims to former Ukraine territories is untenable, in the sense that Russia held a referendum unilaterally held a referendum, which whose outcome, according to the Russian government, affirmed that those territories which were occupied now fall under Russian authority. And they've also raised a lot of cultural language issues and so on to say the people who occupy those territories are Russians. But also there's a sense in which President Putin must come out of this war with something substantial that he can present to the Russians to say, look, for 2 years of war, the Western sanctions and all the costs, this is what we got from the war. At the same time, I would not see President Zelenskyy surviving in the next elections if he were to make such compromises as to give away Ukrainian land. Because then the people of Ukraine will say to him, why we voted you to defend the country? Now you sold out parts of the country.
Yeah.
Why should we retain you? So there are political costs, and indeed the leaders of these countries have to make some painful sacrifices. But I am afraid that the type of concessions that should be made with respect to issues that relates to territorial integrity could actually, if there's too much pressure around those facts, then it might kill the dialogue.
Yeah. What about, very quickly, before we let you go, Dr. Chitanga, what impact could this have on America and its European allies? I mean, if we look at the response from French President Emmanuel Macron on X, I mean, he's recently posted that the future of Ukraine cannot be decided without the Ukrainians.
I understand that European leaders have always said to the U.S. there is need to defend Europe. And they see the U.S. as their ally, which should at least stand by that position. And by defending Europe, they actually mean that the territorial integrity of Ukraine must be respected. What that might mean in terms of reaching an agreement is not yet clear. But also, the war itself has had very severe costs, economic costs, I think, across Europe, and partly is to blame for the rise of the right-wing political parties or political formations which have gained popularity over the past 2-3 years. So I suspect that among some European Union countries, they also feel that there is need for an off-ramp from the conflict. What is not clear at the moment is what kind of concessions could be satisfying for both parties, and what kind of pain are the key leaders prepared to go through to realize that, and what level of concessions would the European Union accept from Ukraine that would still legitimize the claim that the security of the European Union is not compromised. And I think those challenges at this moment and before the talks in Alaska, we may not be able to unpack them because it's not even clear from the U.S. whether they have a comprehensive package which they are actually presenting to both Russia and Ukraine and saying, these are the negotiables, these are the non-negotiables. Yeah. What we get from President Trump, it lacks clarity in terms of the baselines of the dialogue or the negotiations, if at all there are negotiations at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. As we wrap that discussion up with Dr. Gideon Chitanga, who is a research fellow at the Ludwig Maximilians University of Munich in Germany.